All right, the very first thing we need to do for today is make sure our calculator is in the right mode. What's the mode called? Degree mode. You might see something called radian. We don't want that. We want degree mode. So, reminder from yesterday, you grab your calculator. If yours looks like this, you're going to go to mode. It's right by the blue key, mode. And as I scroll down here, I can see it says radian, it says degree. I want degree to be highlighted. If it's not, just go over until you get there. Mode. If you don't have a calculator like mine, thank you. If you don't have a calculator like mine, thank you very much. I can help you find it. Haley, you were gone. Do you have a calculator like this? Yeah. Okay. Nathan, did you find it? Okay. We're all in degree mode. Let's double check by typing something in. Let's all type the same thing. See if we get the same answer. How about cosine of 23? Type that in, please. Sorry, my calculator takes a minute to load up here. Okay, so I'm in the right mode. If you want to get out of that mode, hit second quit. Cosine, did I say 23? Is this what we're getting? Okay. Haley, did you get it? You got it? Okay. At the top of your notes for today, please write SOHCAHTOA from memory from yesterday. SOHCAHTOA. Tate, can you spell it for me? Uh-huh. Good. I purposely capitalized some letters because S, remember, stands for sine. C stands for cosine, and T stands for tangent. So we have to learn last lesson to understand this one. So we're moving on from yesterday's lesson learning SOHCAHTOA. Up by where you wrote SOHCAHTOA, I'd also like you to write this for me, please. Trig, angle, equals side over side, and I'll explain what this means in a second. So this is going to help us find a side of a triangle. Let's look at our triangle first. Using just the information given, can I do the Pythagorean theorem to get y? Can I do the Pythagorean theorem to get y? No. I'd have to have two sides, and I only have the 100. Could I use my 45, 45, 90 rules to get a missing side? Well, no way. This is not a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Can I use my 30, 60, 90 rules? It's not a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So currently, right now, there is no way for us to find that variable. But what we just wrote down is going to help us. We are going to use trig. Remember, trig are the sine, the cosine, and the tangent functions. Those are the three trig functions. What I'd like you to do is put a little 1. We're going to do the angle part first. Put a little 2 above the trig and a 3 above side over side. I'm going to show you how to use trig, what we learned yesterday, to find y from just what we've been given. So we're going to start with an angle. We can pick either the 49 degree angle or the 41, but you cannot pick 90. Dylan, which angle do you pick? 49. Everybody with your pencil, highlight or darken in 49 and under angle put 49. Now we're going to pick a trig function. But I'm not just going to let you pick whichever one you want. Here's how you know which trig function to pick. Take a look at what you've been given. Y. Is Y opposite of the angle picked, adjacent to the angle picked, or is Y the hypotenuse of the triangle? Adjacent. So next to that, put adjacent. We have 100. Is 100 opposite of the angle picked, adjacent to the angle picked, or the hypotenuse of the triangle? Put H for hypotenuse. Now, think about which trig function we should pick. We have an A, adjacent side, and hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse. So which trig function does C stand for? Cosine. So please write cosine. That's the hardest part, getting the right function. Now we know what order to put the sides because SOHCAHTOA tells us the adjacent one, Y, has to come first. Make sure your Y looks like a Y, not a 4. It's a variable, not a number. And it says adjacent over hypotenuse, so 100. This is the new geometry part for today. This setup is how we're going to be able to solve for a missing side. Everything we do now till our answer is going to be algebra. Important, but not necessarily new for today. This is the new part, setting up this formula to find a missing side. All right, let's do some algebra. What I usually do is I make this side into a fraction because the other side was a fraction. What's at the bottom if you can't see anything? 1. Do you remember weeks ago when we had triangles and we compared one to the other and one to the other and made a proportion that looked like this? How did we solve proportions once we had them written? Very good. Cross multiply. So let's do this together. Multiply across. I'm going to do this cross first. 1 times y is y. Let's multiply this cross. That's cosine 49 times 100. Everybody pause. Put your pencil down. Typing this into my calculator can get kind of hairy. So let me talk to you for just a second. Put your pencils down, please. What did I have? I had cosine 49. Quick question. Is 3 times 5 the same as 5 times 3? 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15. Are they the same? Yes. With that being said, are these two things the same then? Yes. Those are exactly the same. You could put the 100 first or the 100 last. It doesn't matter. You'll get the same thing. But when I put them in my calculator, watch for a second. Let's see if I can move all this over. Okay. So I'm going to type the top one. Cosine 49 times 100. Now I'm going to type the bottom one. 100 times cosine 49. Did I get the same thing? I did not. I thought we said they were the same thing. They are. I did my calculator thing wrong, which is why I'm showing you, so I don't want you to do it wrong. Does anybody know what mistake I made in the calculator? Because I should get the same answer. 49. Yes. Up here, Do you see how the 100 is inside the cosine? I don't want that. If I'm going to type this one, I need to do 49 by itself, just that in parentheses, and then times 100. So let me show you correctly. Cosine 49, just the cosine of that, times 100. Now I get the same answer. Okay? I want you guys to know that you may type this either way you want, but more people make mistakes when they do it this way. Everybody good with that? I suggest you put the number first and then the cosine number second. Not that cosine 49 is not a number, but put the number first and then the number with cosine next. All right. You guys put it in your calculator. Make sure you get the same thing I got. Type in either order you want, but I would do 100 times cosine 49. 65.61. Does that seem like a reasonable answer for y? I know it has to be less than 100. That's about all I know. Every problem on our notes and homework are going to start with this. You'll pick your angle, anyone you want, not the right angle. Find the correct trig function. Put your sides in the right order. That's the geometry part for today. Then we'll do our cross multiplying. Number 2. I have to write this again. That might say degree, but I'm going to put an angle. All right, we get to pick an angle, not 90. Sophia, what angle do you want? 28. I'm going to darken it in so I can really look at it in my picture. I want you guys to label what sides you have. What side is the variable, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? What side is the 18? Label it on your paper. Y is the hypotenuse of the triangle. 18 is adjacent to the angle I picked. That's why we have to pick the angle first so we know where we're looking from. Do we know which trig function to pick? Yeah, pick the one with the A and the H in it. It happens to be cosine again. Now put your sides in the correct order. So Katoa tells me adjacent comes first. So that's the 18. Hypotenuse is next, which is y. Questions? Questions on the setup. Let's do algebra. Make this a fraction, so over 1. And multiply across. 1 times 18 is 18. Multiply the other cross. Cosine 28 times y. I would say don't pick up your calculator yet. I need to get my variable y by itself. How would I get y all by itself? What do I do? I think I heard it. Did you say divide? Divide, yeah. Y is being multiplied by cosine 28. So let's divide both sides by cosine 28. Now that our variable is by itself, now we know what to type in our calculator. It says right here, 18 divided by cosine 28. that seem reasonable? 20.39. Has to be bigger than 18 because it's the hypotenuse, so that sounds good to me. Flip the page. Please write SOHCAHTOA from memory at the top. The more you write it, the more you're going to memorize it. Gracie, can you spell it, please?
SOHCAHTOA.
Good. Let's also write down kind of our formula, our way of finding missing sides using trig. We first find the angle or the degree. What have I been writing? Degree or angle? Angle. Then we find our trig function. Then we put the sides in the correct order. Try this on your own. Go ahead and pick the angle you want, not 90. Go from there. Here's the most common question I get. How do I know if I should multiply or divide in my calculator? I would say keep working. Here's what I mean by that. I'm not ready to use the calculator yet. I need to make this a fraction and multiply across. 1 times x is x. Multiply that. 15 times sine of 20. Is my variable by itself? Yep. Can you tell what you need to type in your calculator? Yep. You just need to type in, maybe I should circle it. Type in 15 times sine of 20. $5.13. X is 5.13. Before you go on to the next one, I'd like us to do something here. Label your picture where it says X, label it 5.13. What if in your homework there's not only an X, but there's another variable? Did me adding this Y change how I'm going to find X? Not at all. When you see 2 variables on your homework, ignore one. We ignored the Y. You didn't know it was there. Ignore it. Do exactly what you learned. Now that I found one variable, now I can find the other. Think about this. When I find the other one, I'm going to ignore this variable. I don't need that when finding a variable. So let's do this with me. Let's find the other variable. This time we're going to ignore X, even though we already know it. We do our trig steps again. Pick an angle. Let's go with 20 again. What is this side Y? Opposite, adjacent, or is it the hypotenuse? It's the adjacent side. 15 is the hypotenuse of the triangle. So my trig function is going to be cosine because I have an A and an H. The order for the sides, A comes first, so adjacent, which is Y. Hypotenuse, 15. We're ready to do some algebra. cross multiply. So don't worry on your homework when you have two variables. When finding x, ignore y. When finding y, ignore x. One last thing about this problem. Please look at the board. I found x using trig. I found y using trig. Can anybody tell me a different option, another way I could have found y after I found x already? If you like the Pythagorean theorem and that's going to be quicker for you, I could have done the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now, I might have gotten a slightly different answer because did we round this? Look at your paper. Was this a rounded number? Yes. So do you see how when I put it in here, my answer may be a little bit off? That's okay if you do that. All right, go to the fourth one and let's add a variable. I'm going to add x here. I'd like you to all find x and y. Just do one at a time. Does it matter which variable we find first? Shake your head. Does it matter which variable we find first? No. I found y first. So I ignored x. And then when I was trying to find x, I ignored y. And I went with the two sides I had, which were opposite of the angle I picked and adjacent to the angle I picked. So I picked tan. Raise your hand if you decided to do Pythagorean theorem for your second variable. Any takers? Okay. I did the Pythagorean theorem, and I got 2.14, so slightly different only because in the Pythagorean theorem, I used this rounded number to get my next variable. All right, your homework is in your packet. Might be able to get quite a bit of it done.